Hey, it's Mike Hambright with Flipner.com. Welcome back for another exciting expert interview where I interview successful real estate investing experts, pros, and entrepreneurs in our business. Today, I'm joined by Chase Thompson. He's the managing member of Brazen Equity, a defaulted note buying company where he specializes in buying non-performing notes on residential and commercial properties. Chase is also the co-host of the Note MBA podcast, and he really has a passion. We talked about this beforehand, a passion for how you as an investor can brand yourself, how you market yourself using a number of approaches from social media to other things that we'll get into today, and just how important it is as part of your business to kind of talk to people about what you do and be consistent. So we're going to go into a lot of detail with Chase here in a moment. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days with rates starting as low as 9%. For more information, call 888-296-1697 or visit realtymogul.com/flipnerd. B2R Finance makes loans tailored specifically for rental investors. They can help you unlock equity from existing properties so you can get cash out to grow your rental portfolio. That's huge, and it opens up lots of opportunities previously not available to rental investors. Need a rental loan? Call 855-819-4412 or visit b2rfinance.com. Virtual Staff Now is your source for done-for-you virtual assistants that specialize in helping you run your real estate investing business. They recruit, manage, and train VAs for you so you can focus on growing your business. Visit virtualstaffnow.com to learn more. We'd also like to thank Colony American Finance, National Real Estate Insurance Group, and Mid-Atlantic IRA. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of Flipnerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Chase, welcome to the show.
What is up? How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Excited to talk to you about this. I don't think we've actually covered this topic before. We've talked about marketing.
But we just talked about you having 240 or something shows. You haven't talked
I
about.
know. I'll tell you, it's actually getting more and more difficult to say what have we never covered before. But we talked about some of this in tips and stuff. But it's really an important space. I think there's a lot of people that will kind of this will resonate with a lot of folks. So, and I know you're very passionate about it. I couldn't get you to stop talking about it. So I'm like, all right, let's just make a show out of it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope it works for everybody listening. So
yeah. So hey, before we get started, why don't you kind of tell us your background? I know you said you're 30 and you've already conquered the world. So kind of take it from the top.
Yeah. So I think my two little daughters would not agree with you on the conquering the world thing. We barely conquer sleep every night and sending them to bed and everything. No, so I got started in real estate at a mortgage company here locally. It was a local mortgage company here in San Antonio, Texas. And I immediately fell in love with real estate. I fell in love with kind of everything about it. The product that you get to deliver and the way that you get to interact with just so many different moving parts. I just thought was really fascinating. And I quickly moved from becoming an LO to doing business development within that mortgage company, which led me down this marketing path that I think we're going to kind of cover today. And unfortunately,
by the way, LO, you're dropping acronyms already. Loan officer, right?
Loan originator. Loan originator. Loan officer is now, I think, technically, it's not illegal. You can't call yourself a loan originator. Like on your business card, it has to say loan originator. I can't say loan officer. But yes, or an RMLO, as they like to call it. There you go. That's real acronyms there. So, towards in 2014, I was, laid off for someone that was a little younger and a little cheaper than I was for the job that I was doing, which hurt a little, hurt the ego a little bit, but I still had quite a passion for kind of the real estate space and the mortgage space specifically. So, like you mentioned, what I gravitated to very quickly was the note buying space, the mortgage, the default side of the real estate investing world, just because it was the world that I came from,
right?
Except the other side of the coin. coin, right?
Yep.
And so instead of originating them, I'm hopefully fixing the ones that might have some issues or something like that. So that's kind of the genesis of where I'm at now and kind of where I came from and why I'm here. So
Yeah, and that's a kind of, it sounds like it's a perfect fit. You know how to talk to lenders about defaulted notes, whether it's negotiating to buy them or, of course, trying to negotiate changing terms or things like that, right?
Sure, yeah, and I don't like to often talk with borrowers, and there's all kinds of CFPB and other types of regulatory both groups as well as legislation and things like that
Right.
that kind of permit and unpermit certain types of communication between you and borrowers and things like that. But I'm very comfortable talking with borrowers, very comfortable talking with even to a certain extent some of the stuff that we have that are now rentals. Very comfortable talking to those individuals as well because I kind of view them in that same space, and I talked with them for so long and then like you said, talking with other banks, lenders,
Sure.
even some of the hedge funds that we deal business with. Is just it's really comfortable for me to just either cut through some of the speak that they want to try to drop on some people, whether or not or just really relate with them. It's really cool to be in the same space. Yeah,
That's great. So when we first started talking here a little bit ago before we started recording the show, my assumption was we would be talking about notes today, but you couldn't stop talking about branding and your passion for marketing and how a lot of people are doing it wrong, but could be doing it differently. So here we are.
Like the listener. Yeah, just like the listener, just like the watcher of the show. I'm a fan of the show. I know that you had a note guy on, less than a month ago or about a month ago. And so, we could obviously talk a little bit about that, but no, you're right. My immediate passion is technology, is branding, is marketing, is that whole side of it. So it's just easier for me to rap on that. Plus, I got the podcast where I rap on notes, so it's fine and whatever. So it's easier.
It's an interesting. It's going to be an interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I keep saying it's going to be interesting, then I know it will be. But no, really, here's the reality. I know it's going to be interesting, and it's going to resonate with a lot of people. And here's why. Probably a lot of listeners of this show. I know a lot of listeners of the show are smaller to mid-sized real estate investors. We have some high flyers on here too, but they're going to get this as well. Is that when you work for a company, you probably weren't worrying about branding and marketing and stuff like that. As a smaller real estate investor, you're the chief bottle washer and everything. And I think a lot of real estate investors, quite frankly, do it wrong. They don't know how to kind of brand themselves, how to position themselves. They end up looking like and more often than not, they try to be conspicuous as to who they are. I mean, if you're using bandit signs and stuff like that, you don't want anybody to know who you are, right? So I think that there's a lot of people that don't know how to make themselves stand out from the next guy. And a lot of real estate investors, I mean, everybody's a real estate investor or wants to be. So I know because of other relationships, I'm part of obviously a large system that branding is everything. And I've always been part of large corporations where branding is everything. So I get it. So I think it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, no, I think that with a lot of real estate investors, it's funny that you mentioned bandit signs. I know that, one of the biggest forums for real estate investing is BP, Bigger Pockets. And, they've got a take on bandit signs. It seems pretty universal across their whole platform and their forum. I don't necessarily disagree with it for the same reasons that they do, but like you said, that anonymity and things like that are really, really interesting. I mean, what else would you sell or try to gather leads that way?
Like it's 2 a.m. wearing a ski mask with something that has bandits in it.
What are you pushing, right? Like there's only one other thing that people push, like, right? Like that late at night, right? Yeah. So it is a really weird thing. And ultimately, one of the guys that's my mentor, basically when I was in the business getting in, and he said, I was like, man, I need to find a $100,000 investor, someone to put $100,000 in this deal. Well, you need to start hanging out with $100,000, people with $100,000 hang out, right? And they're not hanging out by this stop sign on this access road, putting in that's just not happening. You're going to get leads and I get it. Everyone's going to, throw hate mail at me all you want, but ultimately that is the truth, right? Like if you want X, you need to hang out where X is. And that's the thing. So, so from marketing and branding and all that kind of stuff, that's just a salient point. That's a really interesting, one piece of marketing to bring up that a lot of traditional kind of real estate investors use that I just think is a little, just not something I would use, basically, in the general sense, for sure.
Yep. So let's talk about the importance of kind of branding yourself and marketing, really kind of in terms of authenticity. So,
sure.
There are things that people do, like you and I both have a show. We try to use our network to bring out good information to people. We'll kind of talk about, how other people can, not everybody has to start a podcast. I mean, there's enough podcasters out there. No more podcasts, guys. No, I'm joking. But let's just talk a little about the importance of kind of the authenticity part of it.
Yeah, I got to piggyback on that. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Authenticity is a massive, massive deal. I mean, with across all kinds of spectrums, right? Like you get a lot of old school people that talk about, how important the handshake is and all that kind of stuff. And that's really what it is, right? Authenticity just kind of covers the whole spectrum when it comes to a marketing. And when you talk about it, the biggest thing that I like to talk about when it comes to authenticity for marketing, though, is this idea of doing it in a way that is true to how you are and who you are, right? Like if you're 65-year-old, not really cool with technology, more kind of old school, going about it that way might work for you. Whereas let's say you're a 22-year-old person and you just got, say, out of college and your first, real estate investing foray was you bought a quadplex or, fourplex, right? And then you rented it out and you're doing all that kind of stuff. But now you are using tools like Periscope, which is a great video app, or you're using Twitter or Instagram or whatever to market yourself and brand yourself. Being authentic to you, who you are, and that person that they're going to be talking to consistently, whether that's giving you JV dollars or if you're sending yellow letters or whatever it is that you're marketing as, being really authentic to who you are, I think is there's almost nothing more important. Another mentor of mine, he likes to say that people whose words and actions sync. Are the most powerful, right? So if you can have those actions and those words and those things that you do within the marketing space be true and authentic in you, there's nothing that everybody knows what they're getting, right? When they deal with you, and that's is so important.
Yeah, I think especially in this industry, because there are so many. Historically, I don't want to say that that I think there's been a lot of improvements, largely probably because of social media and how easy it is to connect people, but I think there was a time where, and there probably still are some folks out there that they're really not who they say they are.
Being a charlatan was easier.
Specifically in the real estate investing world, the kind of guru of yesterday was not necessarily even practicing what they preach,
Completely agree. Agree. I mean, I think that's one of the best things. Everyone, is down a little bit on the privacy side of, say, social media, like you brought up. But again, it also speaks to the fact that if you are who you say you are, it's going to show through pretty quick. Or there's a lot of, we talk a lot about due diligence, obviously, from a note investing side. And of course, it's important in all real estate investing. But, people are going to do their due diligence on you, whether you're trying to get JV dollars from them or, you've reached out to them on the phone or you're driving for dollars or whatever the case is. They're going to do as much due diligence on you as they can, as information permits. Even if you're using banded signs, and and it'll start to show pretty quick if you're being inauthentic or you're not, really on the up and up.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I don't think I've ever said this on the air before. I don't know if this is considered on the air since we're recording this, but anyway, I'm saying it through the air with my mouth. Is that, for example, I had to make the decision when I started the show. I have a lot of experience buying a house. I've bought hundreds of houses, but I was like, how many shows could I do that's talking about me and my experiences? Like I have probably a lot more experience than the average person, but I'm not, I'm going to run out of stuff to talk about and therefore not be able to be original or I guess authentic is the word we're using now. If I have to keep saying, here's how great I am because I'm only a little bit great, not super great. But my point is hey, I'm not an expert at very many things actually. When it turns out I know nothing about notes, never bought any multifamily deals. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't know anything about. My niche is very kind of specific, but it's like, but I know the experts. And let's bring those people on and just kind of bring the best of them out.
Sure. And it's exactly the same thing, right? Like they might have a buddy who's trying to do some fix and flips, but if you're able to present yourself in a much more true and authentic way to them, they might have a little bit of experience with this guy, but you're the one that's going to start doing business with him or whatever the case is, because, he's, been in this business and in that business and doing this kind of thing. Even if you just started, if you look that way and you kind of sound that way and you are that way, you're going to get that business, which is what we all want to do anyway. Right.
So the important message here is don't represent yourself as somebody that you're not. Just kind of be yourself. Quite frankly, it's a lot easier to do that in the long run anyway, right? You're going to get tired of being a fake person if you're not real.
Totally. One thing I would do as a side note is you talked about talking about the same thing over and over again. I mean, like that's the Dave Ramsey show pretty much every day, right? He talks about his baby steps and he talks about the way he invests. He's been able to do a really great job with it. Mike, I think you would have done an awesome job. 240 episodes in, just talking about what you know. I think you would have done pretty good.
Yeah.
Just gonna say.
So let's talk about let's take a minute and kind of talk about why this is important. So we haven't really talked about. We've kind of said when you're branding yourself or when you're marketing, but we're not necessarily. I guess you're kind of not necessarily talking about marketing for leads for houses or just kind of like how you represent yourself in how you do business. I mean, is that just kind of a general theme here?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, right? Like you should always be swinging the hammer as hard as possible because you don't know who's looking and you don't know who's watching and you don't know at which point they're going to come into that particular action that you're doing. So no, I mean, I really think that marketing now, I think number one, everyone's a marketer, regardless of if you are a sole entrepreneur doing real estate investing or you're the front desk at a dentist's office, right? Like everyone is a marketer now because everyone can, hop on their phone and tweet about how sassy the front desk lady was at, ABC Dental or whatever, right? So I think everyone's a marketer, number one. And that's important. And so by that, it is talking about leads. It is talking about getting, say an injection of capital into your business. While at the same time, you're talking about how you present yourself. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. I just think in general, I think a lot of people, doing the business that I do, and helping people that I help and kind of consult with on their marketing, they like to say, oh, I don't like marketing, or I'm not a marketer, or whatever the case is. And, what I often tell them is, okay, well, you're going to lose. You're going to get beat because everyone's a marketer now. My daughter's a marketer now. She's constantly wanting XYZ toy or this app or this kind of thing. And so she's hustling at 3.5 to try to get me to do these things. Right. She's marketing on behalf of wanting a thing, and you can call it what you want to call it, but that's what that is. Yeah. And so, yes, and absolutely, it is about leads. It's about all of those things, because everyone is listening and everyone is watching what you're doing. And you always have to be swinging the hammer as hard as possible. Yeah.
Let's talk about the importance of consistency in your efforts.
To me, consistency is the one true human superpower, right? Like you see, say, like a 4-star general who's like 68 and he's still up every morning at like 4:30, hitting the gym, and he's just doing these things. I mean, sure, it's ingrained and it's habitual or whatever you want to call it, right? But like when you see someone that is truly just has unbelievable growth in their business or unbelievable, they just emit this kind of thing. It's because of that consistency. Yeah. And that to me is vital. So if you're sharing messages on, like you're saying, social media, if you're sending out particular mailers, if you are, the way that you present yourself at every single REI event that you go to, whatever that is, consistency is, like I said, it's the only true human superpower. And the people that we notice and that we talk about, and the Steve Jobs, all these people, these are highly consistent people in everything that they do as best as they can, and they achieve amazing things because of it. And from a marketing or branding perspective, that's what it is. It's not doing an email this week and then waiting 4 months and then, maybe I'll trickle something else out to my list, and then, maybe I'll do the yellow letters this month, but I'm not going to do them this month. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't.
I think especially for real estate investors, there's such a long cycle time. There's kind of a relatively small conversion rate on any kind of sales funnel you have. Like you've always got to be putting stuff in that funnel, or kind of always building something that's going to come back around in months and years ahead.
Yep. And that consistency in your marketing, like I said, yellow letters is a great example. Yeah. As a note investor, we don't use it, but I understand why, say, a traditional real estate investor would, right? Ask anybody who does that consistently. If they stopped, every, 90, 60 days, like what would they expect their lead conversions to do, right? Or how would they expect those? They would absolutely tank. Absolutely tank. And that's just one aspect of the marketing and branding that you're doing for you and your business. The same thing applies. Let's say you do your first real estate deal, right? It's a wholesale deal or whatever the case is. I've been seeing this a lot from new investors, and I think it's awesome. Yeah. They'll like post the check, right? Or they're holding their kid and they're like, just started real estate investing, whatever, right? But then they don't post anything else. Even though they might be doing deals or other things, for whatever reason, someone might have given them flack, or they've got a mentor that's like, hey, I don't know if I'd be posting, $3,000 checks on, or whatever. But then they really don't talk about it as much anymore. And so now what am I to think as your friend who was like, oh, cool, Mike's getting into real estate investing. That's awesome. He's got some, he did a deal. This is crazy. Yeah. And then I never see it again. Now I think you're just selling, some
or you
multi-level
assume it never happened again. Right? That's why they didn't post another check.
Right. Yeah. You're like, oh, you hit, right. Like you struck gold once and you're just, or you know what I mean? Like it's never going to happen again. It's the same kind of thing. If it's on Facebook, if it's yellow letters, if it's bandit signs, whatever it is, you need to be extremely consistent about it. Yeah. If you want any kind of true growth and true momentum to be built up. Like you're saying, stuff the pipeline as fat as you can make it, right? Yeah. That is unbelievably important.
Yeah, yeah. So talk a little bit, we kind of tiptoed around it, a little bit about the importance of social media in all of this.
Yeah, I ultimately don't think social media sells as well as other people think it does, or that other people feel just like it. I mean, and I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk guy. I'm not sure if a lot of your listeners know Gary. I'm sure you know who he is. He obviously said, he says social media sells shit. Like that's his like moniker. Like he loves that thing. And I agree with a lot of things. With real estate investing, I think it's a little different. It's a really high priced thing. If someone's going to be, especially like a note investor, like if I'm raising capital or bringing on JV dollars or what have you, seeing a Facebook update from me and then going, hey, that's really cool. I think I'm going to cut that guy $100,000 check is just probably not, like it might happen, but it's not nearly going. It's not going to happen as much as me hitting the phone, as me sending you emails, as like the attrition and meeting you in person and all that kind of stuff. That being said, though, I think it is incredibly important to be posting to some social network. Yeah. Whichever one it fits you, at least be posting to one, because that is, like I said before, where the eyes and ears of everyone is. That's where we're all at. So give as many people as you can, as authentically as you can, and as consistently as you can, the eyes and ears on at least one platform. I prefer all of them just because I love them all. But, for the new person starting out, or if you just want to crush it on one, it's so important. I don't know how much it'll sell for you, but it'll pique interest. It'll give them a reason to reach out to you. And then that's, I think, when you close. From a real estate perspective, I feel.
Yeah. I think if nothing else, it's kind of brand building. It's like there are certain things you do in advertising. It depends on what business you're in. So I'm trying to like not give an example here because I'll end up destroying it somehow. But basically, let's just say you're a huge retailer and you're doing TV. Well, the TV stuff isn't generally as much call to action as it is brand building. And the flyer that comes in the Sunday paper behind it kind of cements that brand that you saw on TV, and now you take action because you have something in your hand. So I think exactly. Whether social media may not be the call to action that that might not be the tool that you're using to get somebody to take action, but it kind of cements the next thing that might come along, like that another layer of marketing.
I say a really great example. I feel like it's a really great example would be someone like my wife and I were talking.
Are you saying my example was not really great?
Your example is perfect.
Okay. Well, just to make sure, give another one then.
But I'm saying to like stack on top of this awesome sandwich of great is this idea that my wife and I were watching TV the other day and Coca-Cola had a commercial. And we both kind of started to have a conversation about like why. Like, right, like who doesn't know that Coca-Cola exists? Like I get if you're like in the middle of nowhere and some, but in America, who doesn't know that Coca-Cola is a thing and that it exists and that if they consume it, it is delicious for like 99% of the population. Nobody doesn't know that, right?
Right.
But, and so you're like, why do these big brands keep doing that, right? And then we go all the way back, and I'm going to bring it back, and everyone's heard it a million times, to the Oreo Super Bowl halftime, where they had the lights and all that. Like, that took a brand that everyone knows and put them in the spotlight now for like 6 straight years because they did it so well and crushed so phenomenally with real-time social, currency that they were able to build up with that one thing. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be Oreo or anything like that, but I think a lot of people just forget that. Like, they can compete with these companies in this space just so much easier than they could on radio. And way easier than they could on TV. And yet they're just like, I don't really know if I want to learn how to, you got it. You got to get rid of that mindset. You got to get rid of it, because you can now compete with the larger organizations, the bigger investors out there, the guys that you feel are crushing it. You can compete with them in these spaces, and that's important.
No, it's easier than ever to kind of build your brand
totally
through social media. Just as one more reminder, it's very, very difficult to start a new podcast. So no more real estate podcasters, please. No, I'm joking.
Mike, you were so
many of these guys are actually some of my very best friends now. So, no, so I think that's important. And some of it is just kind of having that. Some of it is a defensive move too, right? It's like having the presence. Like if you're not there, then what does that say about you?
No doubt. Yeah. I think you've got a lot of people that aren't there, right? Like you've got Apple or like Warren Buffett or, like you've got these bigger, juggernauts that aren't there. But like, really? We're going to talk about the outliers not being there. And that's the reason why you're choosing not to be there. So are you saying you're Apple? And like, you're not. Get it out of your, like, that's not you, unless you are. And get with everybody else, because this is where the action's happening. This is where the eyeballs and the ears are. And if you want to be able to do business, and if business is your full-time job, being successful is your full-time job, this is a space that you need to be in.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, without getting into a lot of details here, this isn't like a workshop, but just talk about how people can use social media to, because now more than ever, I mean, truth be told, through our social media stuff, we have some of the stuff planned out weeks in advance, or we start to have kind of a promotional calendar. But I think it's a lot easier than ever for people to kind of, you could go take 10 pictures of a house and post them all right now, or you could say, hey, I'm going to schedule these, or I'm going to kind of systematically post these things over time so that I'm kind of staying top of mind instead of, hey, I'm top of mind right now, but you're not going to see me again for a week.
So I'll mention an app at the end, not at the end, but after this little bit, but talking about how you can use social. Number one, pick a platform, right? Right off the top, just pick a platform. I love LinkedIn for the note business, because we're a little bit more B2B than say a lot of traditional real estate investors would be. But pick a platform, number one. And then whatever that platform is, like really dive in. Like just, there's so many people. Snapchat is a great example of a social network that a lot of people, don't even know certain bells and whistles about it, because they just look so surface at a particular app. Like for them, Facebook is just a place for them to go post status updates. Like they don't understand like this whole other ad side, the psychology, the when to post, how to post, the colors to use in certain things that you're doing. They don't know simple things like the way that the EdgeRank algorithm works in terms of the more interaction I have with you, Mike, on Facebook, the more likely Facebook is going to, oh, wow, these two guys really like each other. So every time one of them posts something, I'm going to let the other one know, right? Is basically how that works, right? Like it's very simple the way that can be worded, right? So when you post certain types of content, Facebook as the example here, you need to post stuff that is really easy and really, really, really engaging for people. So if all they do is give you a like, that's just like one check. Okay, cool. It's like he liked Mike's photo, so let's shove him another one in like 3 hours. And he checked that one, 2 hours, check 3. You know what I mean? And so you're doing these things. That is incredibly important. So not just picking a particular platform, but like making it your job to really understand it. And if that means going to say like lynda.com, which is a really cool website for like that teaches like online courses and stuff, or Udemy or something like that, or just searching up. I mean, look, Flip Nerd's probably got a ton of really great content on the forums in the back end and things that y'all do there, and just really diving in on that one that you use. And then when you're talking about posting and editorial calendars, one of my favorite apps to use for kind of short-term sharing and scheduling of some shared content is a really great app called Buffer, Buffer. Not sure if we talked about it on the show before, but
no. I know what it is, but we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, I think you can find it. You couldn't find it before at buffer.com. It was at bufferapp.com. I don't know if they've now purchased it or what have you, but you can find it. It's on all of the Google Play Store and Apple Store and all that stuff. But Buffer is really cool because it allows you to schedule those posts that you're talking about. So if you've got, 10 deals or 10 articles or 10 photos or whatever the things you want to do, you can schedule all 10 of those to go out at specific times. You can say, I want these to go out at these specific times. But Buffer is really cool because it also they tell you when they think analyzing your feed, the best time to post would be. Like you wanted to do 2 o'clock, but you get more engagement at 4 o'clock. You're like, oh snap, I should probably do 4 o'clock then, right?
Yeah.
Really, really cool app to kind of, especially if you're that solo person, you don't have a team or what have you. Being able to kind of like have a little mini editorial calendar over the next 7 days or so for some pieces of content to go out across multiple different social platforms. Really, really cool app. The free version is great. The paid version is really great. But just the free version alone will get you a ton of traction. Very cool app.
Yeah, we'll add a link for it for anybody that's interested. But yeah, Buffer app, and there's Hootsuite. There's a number of other products in the space.
Hootsuite's great.
Yeah. So talk a little. We're just have a couple more minutes here, but talk real quick. Just share your thoughts on everything that we just said, and kind of going back to this first thing. One of the first things we talked about, which was authenticity. So at what point do people start to, when you start using posting tools like this? It's funny because we're talking about authenticity, consistency, kind of being present. So being present, we're saying, hey, use social media tools. And that'll help you with consistency. Does it take away from your authenticity?
So I think if you're posting something, I think the question you're asking is, if I post something automatically on a Tuesday that I didn't physically push the button to post, is that authentic?
Yeah.
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
I think that, again, if you're a Gary Vaynerchuk fan, he says don't use any of that automation in terms of that kind of social posting and things like that. And that's great, right? He's hired a team of 8 people to follow him around and create content. I don't know how you're doing, Mike, but I'm not in a position to hire 8 people to follow me around to create content for me. Yeah. And I know that he does a lot of his own tweeting and that type of thing, and that's cool. And I know that he even does some of his Facebooking. That's cool. But again, if I'm not that guy, if I'm not the Apple or the Steve Jobs or the Gary Vaynerchuk, I've got to do what I've got to do to grow my business and do what I got to do. So from an automation standpoint, I have 2 points. Number one, never post with the intention of never following up. So if I tweet something out and someone replies or says or retweets or whatever the case is, and I'm not willing to jump back in that conversation, and I see this all of the time, don't do it. Don't do it. Because then you've now lost that person.
Right.
They're, oh, hey, Chase, that was a really great article. Crickets.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so don't do that, number one. Number two, the dark side of automated posting is when something happens, good or bad, and specifically on the bad, and then you're that guy that then has a tweet that goes out that's like, hey, check out my most recent real estate video where I got 20% ROI. And like something just happened absolutely tragic across the country. And you're that guy, right?
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, something good.
By the way, we did that. We did. I don't know that it went out, but I'll tell you, don't do what I did. Literally, we have some motivational quotes and stuff that we use. We had a couple from Bill Cosby that a few months ago were like, oh man, we got to get rid of those. Where were they at?
Is amazing. Yeah. Okay, so like that's a really great example. But even on the flip side, we just had the U.S. women's soccer, the national soccer team, win, right? Like win the World Cup. It's absolutely amazing, and in like just devastating fashion.
Yeah. And
you still got people that are tweeting and Facebook about stuff. Not to say that like you have to care that that's happening, but that is a national event.
Right.
You should at least know what's going on, or try if you're saying you're in that space and that you are engaged in that space, and that whole space is talking about this thing over here. No one cares about what you're talking about over here,
right? And
they care less because you're not talking about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
So I like to use one app. I use Buffer. Hootsuite's great. I use Buffer. And if something happens, I love having one app, or I realize like you're saying something's up or whatever the case may be, where I can literally go in and delete everything and just delete everything. Because to me, it will burn your brand and burn those relationships and those reputation, that reputation that you've built up when you do that kind of thing very quickly. If you do it once, if you're a big brand, like absolutely never, right? But as an individual, we'll give you some leeway. But again and again and again, it's not good. It's not a good look.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, hey, any kind of final words of wisdom here, and then why don't you tell us how folks can learn more about you?
Final words of wisdom would just be to go back to that idea that like everyone is a marketer now, and like period, because everyone has access to the amazing technology that is now on their phone and this unbelievable network that everyone is now connected to. There's actually, I said it while we were doing the pre-show, but One of my mentors likes to quote, he likes to say that your brand is a commonly held set of beliefs about what you deliver and how you deliver it, as told through the eyes of the customer, client, or consumer. So it doesn't matter what you say you are. It matters what other people say you are. But again, that all comes back to that marketing. What are you putting in front of them? What are you saying about yourself? How are you doing that? Everyone is a marketer now, and it's important to get in the game, because if not, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And how do folks learn more about you if they want to learn more into the crazy world of Chase Thompson?
For sure. They can definitely go check out the podcast. If you know some about note investing, or you want to kind of get some initiation in note investing, you can check that out. It's notemba.com, notemba.com. Yep. And I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. All of those links are actually on the website there. So there's no reason to kind of spout that out. But if you want to send me a direct question or anything like that, you can just hit me up at chase@notemba.com. And that'll be kind of a direct email to kind of send me a question or anything that you want to reach out on. So
awesome. Well, Chase, hey, thanks for spending time with us today. I think it's an important topic. And of course, we just obviously touched the very tip of it.
Yeah,
but
I
think everybody understands that, hopefully a lot of smaller real estate investors, if you're listening, you understand that even though you think, well, I'm just small, I don't need these things, but you really do need to be able to separate yourself from the next guy for sure, the next woman for sure. So hopefully you get something out of the show. So Chase, thanks again for your time.
Cool, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, Mike.
All right, buddy. Stay in touch. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.